What was going on here, Mama?
I mean, we were just hugging each other, welcoming each other because we are meeting Eve and Slur after 1 or 2 years, we are meeting Monique after a few months. So this is a celebration of 1 billion rising.
We will do more of that tomorrow, but next time you do a little dance, call me first, call me first. So how is everybody doing? How are you, my dear?
I'm doing good.
Where are you from? Who are you?
Okay, I'm Manorama Ekta from India.
How are you enjoying the conference so far?
Yes, I'm enjoying. This is my very first day. Yeah, thank you.
Have a lovely time. Thank you for coming. Thank you. So let's see here. You two ladies look really interesting. How are you? Who are you and how are you?
Praying that you will not come to the
I have a nose for that and I can sniff you out. So where are you from?
I'm from Ontario, Canada.
Great. And of course you're in the women's business, so to speak. So has anything been an eye opener for you so far?
The joy and the energy of the room has been a gift. It's super heartening.
Thank you for being with us. What a journey you've made. Hello, these are friendly people I know from breakfast. How are you today?
Very well.
This is just a microphone, it doesn't bite you. So can you tell me anything that sticks to your mind from the conference so far?
Oh, I was in 2 incredible sessions this morning. One on very innovative discovery that working with the people who provide maintenance to affordable living housing, our eyes on evidence of domestic violence. Fantastic. And then another one on traumatic brain injury among domestic violence. Domestic violence survivors. I'm sorry.
It's okay, we all have. I stumble all day, nobody notices.
But the evolution from 2008 to today, 2019, across four conferences is wonderful to see.
Well, that is something that's really good to remember because it's good to have people like you have been to all of them so we can actually compare. One thing that strikes me is the number of men in the room compared to, yes, you brought your husband as well. Howard, let me ask a man a question. How is this for you?
That's excellent. I enjoyed the session. It's nice to see the number of men has, I think, increased 4 or 5 times from the last.
You remember counting 4 at some point in the day. Welcome. Welcome and continue enjoying everything. Let me cross over here. Hello, sir. Please stand up. Who are you and why are you here?
Yes, my name is Brian Farma. I'm from the Netherlands, from the Dutch Coordination Center Against Human Trafficking. And as you all know, victims of human trafficking also need placed in shelters. And I'm here to learn about all the experience and best practices of all the countries here.
Can you tell us one thing that you have picked up so far?
Yeah, there was a workshop session this morning and it was about specialized shelters in Australia. And when you develop shelters, you really need to listen to the people who are living in the shelters and to know what they need.
I remember that I was in that session as well. Julie O'Brien was telling us, and sometimes things are so logical, yet we don't do them. Ask people what they need. And the one thing that stuck to my mind was the houses with 2 kitchens, so 2 mothers can be cooking at the same time and talking. Well, welcome here, another Dutchie. Yes, Holland represent. Thank you, Brian. One more, I guess, on my way to the stage. Well, your hair is asking for attention, so could you please stand up? Who are you? Where are you from?
My name is Evelyn Maika from Lithuania, Venus Women's House. We are specialized representatives for women victims of domestic violence.
Great job. And how has being here helped you in your work?
It was a very interesting day. We had a very interesting workshop on traumatic brain injuries and domestic violence survivors. And it was really pointed out that when we talk about injuries which happens to men, sportsmen, this is have so much attention, so much funding, and so on, while women who suffers it have 10 times greater. Consequences, more women suffer from that. They do not get the same attention. So this is important.
It's important to know so we can work on it. Thank you very much. So I can see that everybody is quieting down. Almost everybody is in the room. That gives me a chance to say I'm happy to see you again while I make my way on stage. These are long days, aren't they? But they are so intense and they take so much out of us, but they give us energy as well, don't they? Yes, that's the way I feel it. So welcome back everybody to this final plenary session of today. I hope all of you have been having a productive day. I've been hearing from some of you how the workshops went and the fact, I'm sure you're making friends as well, or are you sticking to the same people that you've known for 20 years? Oh, that sounds like yes. You still have tomorrow, just to meet somebody you really never met before. So this session will challenge participants to come up with unexpected and creative ways to protect survivors. How can innovative systems and integration of resources and services work together to meet this very diverse needs of survivors? Because we always seem to tend to think that survivors is like a generic word, but we must never forget that they are people. One person feels differently about something than the next. So here to start the session is a visionary leader of women who works in one of the most desperate areas in the world when it comes to safety for women, the Democratic Republic of the Congo. But even with the bleak outlook, there is a growing glimmer of hope, if I may say so. She is the founder of the City of Joy, an oasis in what can be called the rape capital of the world. And the City of Joy provides shelter and life-changing transformation to survivors of violence in a country that is torn by war. Before I call her name, she has a clip that she would like to share with us. So let's look at the video first.
It's a constant reminder that the war is not over. But the most amazing thing about this role is where it leads us every day.
Mimi sikuwa najua vita. Sasa tulianjaka sikia viola, tulikuwa najua viola ndio nini.
The powerful countries of the world are funding militias. The militias use rape as a weapon of war.
Hundreds and hundreds of thousands of women raped and tortured.
All the survivors, what do you think they do? They leave. So we ask all these women who what they need.
Kwenye hakuna bastoda, kwenye hakuna make kukwe na amani.
That's how City of Joy started.
Sasa nilikuwa msite de la joie, mais sikuwa kana furaha.
The magnitude of the stories were beyond anything I'd ever heard in my life.
Sasa nilikuwa msite de la joie, enye komuli. Iko na hadithi yake.
La vision de la cité de la joie et c'est révolutionner la mentalité des femmes.
Each one of you is going to take center stage with your voice, with yourself.
Ça tout a transformé, il m'a désolé l'autre, il m'a pas de pouvoir dans deux groupes.
Nilishajisikia na mimi kumbe niko mvuta.
Nilikuwa na boga sana tangia leo, boga inaisha.
I told my story, you can tell your story. There's a life after all we survived.
This gives me goosebumps. We are honored that she is here to share her story. Please welcome Christine Schuller, the Schreiber.
Good afternoon, everybody. First, a little correction. I'm the co-founder of City of Joy with Yves Ensler and Dr. Denis Mukwege. And I'm also the director of City of Joy. It is such an honor for me to be here with all of you to share about our experience with women's shelter. I come from the richest country of the world, situated in the richest continent. My country is called the Democratic Republic of Congo. Our population is one of the poorest, facing multiple, terrible economic wars since 1996. On the surface of our country, we are really blessed to have an abundance of flora and fauna. We are also blessed to be the second lung of humanity with the surface of a rainforest after the Amazonia. On a deeper level, we have treasures that the world needs. Desire: gold, diamonds, cobalt for electric cars, uranium, copper, huge petroleum reserves, platinum, iron, tantalite known as coltan, used in your mobile phones, computers, etc. As you can imagine, the West desperately needs your resources, and you have to understand that aid doesn't come from Western countries to Africa, but come from Africa to the Western world. They totally depend on us. The Western world assures that the free aid keeps coming by systematically destabilizing the wealthiest African nations like the Democratic Republic of Congo, supported by huge campaigns that give the world the impression that Africa is poor and dying, surviving on the mercy of the West. All the big institutions and NGOs that continue to run huge advertising campaigns for charity sustain that image of Africa globally. Already much more than 8 million deaths have taken place in Congo due to the ongoing conflict, but nobody wants to call it a genocide. Women's and children's bodies have been battlegrounds for decades, where all kinds of atrocities are permitted, but the world remains deaf and blind, protecting their economic interests and using militias and former genocidaires from Rwanda to plunder our country. With my husband and our 2 children, we refused to abandon the Congolese when the first war started in 1996, but never could have imagined the level of atrocities and brutalities I would witness. I wasn't prepared, but who can be? I don't remember how many women and children I had to bury because they were thrown at the hospital steps, totally alone, being punished again for being raped. I became their sister, their mother, their daughter, cried all my tears for years until I became sick and suddenly stopped eating. Feeling guilty to live in my comfort while so many others suffered. I stopped sleeping and almost died. At that time, I was introduced to one of the most extraordinary women I will ever know, Yves Ensler, and thank you for being here. The writer of the Vagina Monologues and the founder of V-Day and 1 Billion Rising, the global activist movement to end violence against all women and girls. Eve literally changed my life and saved me. And she also saved the lives of thousands and thousands of Congolese, not to mention the lives of women all over the world. After being invited to Congo by Dr. Denis Mukwege, Eve came to Congo taking the time, because usually when people come, they take like 1 day to try to understand what's going on. But she took the time to ask victims and survivors what they wanted, and they came up with the idea of City of Joy, a safe place where they could live in community, heal and empower themselves through life skills training and counseling while staying for 6 months at a time in groups of 90 young women. A place where they could be independent from their families and any responsibilities, free to take care of themselves and take their own destinies in their hands. Experiences from many shelters of survivors show that most survivors are able to exit their status if they receive a combination of permanent housing services and social support, based or evidence from City of Joy as a shelter for survivors of gender-based violence in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. It is clear that shelters for survivors should aim to lift them, I mean the survivors, from their problems, losses, isolation, etc., to power. Our philosophy at City of Joy is to put the beneficiaries at the center of all the services provided. Together, survivors, shelter managers, and social workers work jointly to create an environment, a place where survivors restore their dignity and come back to their true selves. Evidence from City of Joy in DRC, a revolutionary new model. Generally, in Africa, and particularly in DRC, one-stop centers for survivors provide multi-sectorial case management, including health, welfare, counseling, and legal services in one location. The recurrent conflicts that have characterized the DRC have given rise to many survivors. These people have lost direction, and services which were provided to rescue them have failed to meet their real needs in many regions. Many of these services have been less than a half solution to their problems, as the authentic shelters of survivors of gender-based violence were almost non-existent. The creation of shelters, also known as safe houses, have put programmers in the position of taking the comprehensive problems of survivors to the forefront. This has been an urgent response, creating new methods of shelter management, holistic care through the establishment of one-stop centers. This method is also called the complete or total patient clinic care approach. In the context of City of Joy, we use this survivor-centered approach. We believe that shelter management must center on its residents. In all the actions made and in all the events planned, starting from the inception of each project to its budgeting, implementation, and evaluation, survivors or beneficiaries must be primary target with a view to make them feel full-fledged members of the community that welcomes them in order to develop, heal, and reconstruct their life in a new perspective. This approach should take into account many dimensions: cultural, political, security, environmental, gender sensitive, moral, etc., so that survivors' healing process be tailor-made to meet their specific needs to grow, change, heal, feel free, write their destinies on their own terms, and be able to open themselves in a safe environment, and fix their surroundings when they return there as new persons. This approach to shelter management and social work also must provide protection and security to the residents. This allows survivors to see that life can and will change in a new environment, and with people who take their situation to heart. An example at City of Joy is that 90 women from varied locations come each with their problems. They are shelters in a center where they have to heal from their past trauma. They are provided with care, they are secure, nurtured, and they receive a 4-dimensional support: medical, legal, for those whose cases are not yet solved, psychological, and in the end, socioeconomic reintegration when they go back to their communities as leaders, in addition to capacity building and livelihood training they receive in their training package. Safety for survivors of violence is an important factor that favors the needed change of their life. V-Day, the mother organization of City of Joy, is a global community of activists with a shared vision of a world where women can thrive rather than merely survive. As shelter managers and social workers, we can join our efforts as a global community and create spaces that are connected and free from the fear and isolation that many victims face. So they have resources and hope to build a better future. While the City of Joy is a physical place, it is also a metaphor for turning pain into power. City of Joy aims to provide women with the opportunity to heal and redirect themselves in a community on their own terms. Its philosophy is grounded in the belief that each woman is unique, valuable to her society, and has a right to be treated with dignity, respect, love, and compassion. Women are survivors who have been through unjust gender traumas. Each woman is capable of activating her own ability to recover, heal, and be an empowered and transformational leader. Rebirth is always possible. Like all communities, the City of Joy has its own culture. One is grounded in love and respect for each other and the unique experience each woman brings to the table. The 10 guiding principles of the City of Joy are: tell the truth, stop waiting to be rescued, take initiatives, know your rights, raise your voice, share what you've learned, give what you want the most, feel and tell the truth about what you've been through, use it to fuel a revolution, practice kindness, treat your sister's life as it were your own. At City of Joy, we consider the following aspects: admission criteria for survivors, playing the role of the wind behind the backs, breaking the glass ceiling, healing from pain to power to planting, building on others' experience. A glimpse into the admission criteria of survivors. The selection of each resident should be based on some criteria. These criteria define the profile of the residents, which will help attain the objective of the shelter mission. If, for example, the objective of the shelter management is to have candidates who pass through transformation and become leaders, from the admission to the reintegration of these candidates, managers and social workers should see the traits, conditions, and criteria which will make the candidates leaders. In the model of City of Joy, we do not recruit all survivors of gender-based violence. We recruit those who meet our admission criteria because we believe that the transformation from pain to power is possible with those criteria. To cite some, every woman who comes to City of Joy must be a survivor of gender violence aged 18 to 30, have a medical form, be willing to go back to her community to lead, comply with the rules and regulations of City of Joy as a community, be traumatized, etc. These criteria will be the determining factors of all the residents who live in one shelter. These criteria will help social workers determine appropriate treatment to achieve goals within a specified period. Playing the role of the wind behind the backs. Nowadays, survivors of gender-based violence, like any homeless person, come from a personal setting with individual background. The genesis of the creation of the City of Joy has shown how benefactors, donors, and managers should not impose the model follow. They must play the role of the wind behind the backs. This means that these persons must listen to the voices of the survivors. They must hear them, take into account all their concerns, and be behind the initiative they take to change their lives. City of Joy played this role by accompanying women to have their far-fetched dreams come true. In prelude to the beginning of the program, women themselves crafted how City City of Joy should look like. They said what they wanted to learn and how they could learn it, allowing survivors of gender-based violence to be the primary and main actresses of the change and the difference they want to see means giving them the entire responsibility for their healing. Breaking the glass ceiling. In every corner of the world, women and girls survivors of gender-based violence need a roof, a place to shelter from violence, poverty, corruption, etc. The new methods of shelter management and social work that allow women survivors of gender-based violence to know what glass ceiling is and means to them, with a view to equip them with skills and knowledge to break it and fly beyond its limits. The new methods should allow survivors to break the existing taboos by providing them with training in reproductive health, gender rights, civic and political education, pacific coexistence, nutrition, etc., and link their human experience with the love and protection they owe to Mother Nature, by planting trees, making compost, crossing and feeding rabbits, pigs, fish, etc., and improving their farm productivity in order to boost their economic independence. In one term, breaking the glass ceiling means allowing the woman to shift from pain to power to planting and move with the world, which is changing at an unprecedented pace, and lift other women in their communities. Healing from pain to power to planting. Shelter management and social work should not only target survivors, but also connect their healing or transformation process with the power they get and with the environment they live in. The effects of the physical environment, Mother Nature, on the healing process and well-being have proved to be increasingly relevant for survivors and their family, as well as for social workers. In the methods we use at City of Joy, we provide survivors with knowledge to admire, love, and protect the nature and the its element. And Mother Nature was so generous in the Democratic Republic of Congo. We provide them with knowledge to heal and heal the environment. We teach them to value their relationship with the nature by protecting it through the practice of ecological techniques. This is the reason why City of Joy therapists use much methods as contemplation and meditation in the nature. Our farm, Viewald Farm, is a place where the communion and reconciliation between humans and nature are possible. In the farm, survivors reinforce their healing process when they learn to plant trees, make local fertilizer, cross rabbits, feed pigs, goats, and fish with bio and fresh grass from the farm, where everything is part of a cycle of transformation. The farm allows women survivors to release their trauma when they think about the marvelous farm products, when they listen to the songs of birds, and when they see how we jointly work to feed humans with honey. Building on others' experience. We acknowledge that shelter management must get inspiration from the base. For example, from the situation, environment, culture, and policy of the country, region, community where it is set. The initiative must not be a copy from another environment, but experience can also be learned from other shelter managers and social workers who succeeded in their context. Social work. In our City of Joy method of shelter management and social work, all social work must provide holistic care to its patient survivors. The social work provided is built on 4 pillars: medical, psychological, legal, and socio-economic. All these pillars provide comprehensive services to the residents of shelters. For these reasons, the services that are offered require coordination and integration of care that will promote improved health outcomes, improved survivor satisfaction, and good socio-economic reintegration, so that every beneficiary finds herself on a path of healing, love, self-esteem, and leadership. This approach in social work seeks seeks to make sure all coordinated efforts that are made to empower survivors are all defined and capitalized in health, psychosocial, socio-economic, and legal assistance in one location through the methods used at City of Joy. True, the survivors can be referred elsewhere for legal assistance. In the methods used in City of Joy, management and social work, there are two sorts of counseling provided to the residents, individual and group counseling, in addition to other therapeutic methods we provide. Individual counseling is a one-on-one talk which gives an opportunity to each resident of City of Joy to receive support and experience growth during challenging time in life. It is an opportunity which helps the social worker to deal with many personal topics in the life of each resident of a shelter. These topics can be anger, depression, anxiety, substance abuse, marriage and relationships challenges, parenting problems, school difficulties, rape, etc. This method allows therapists, social worker, to give a specific attention to the survivor that isn't possible in a group setting. In other terms, his approach is tailored to the specific needs of the individual. Her current needs dictate the treatment plan. Through this could change over the course of therapy. Group therapy and counseling is used at City of Joy so that survivors can listen to their sisters' stories and feel compassionate with them. It is a sort of therapy that reinforces sisterhood and creates an atmosphere of mutual support in group therapy where other members of the group often help one another come up with specific ideas for improving a difficult situation or life challenge. Regularly, talking and listening to others also help each survivor put their own problem in perspective. Many people experience mental health difficulties, but few speak openly about them to people they don't know well. Oftentimes, you may feel like you are the only one struggling, but you're not. It can be a relief to hear others discuss what they're going through and realize you're not alone. These principles are in case in City of Joy's Revolutionary Vagina Warrior program that aims to provide a safe and empowering community for survivors of gender violence who have demonstrated leadership qualities. The focus is on giving women space and time to heal themselves from trauma, build self-esteem and skills, and gain valuable leadership training. The range of activities women experience over the course of their stay is breathtaking, from leadership training, from rights awareness, judiciary, community activism, media, communication, specialized psychosocial care, massage, self-defense, and comprehensive sexuality education. The center prepares women to not only integrate back into their community with confidence, but to lead. Women graduate having corporate literacy and are exposed to everything from physical education, culinary arts, theater and dance, craft making, and on-site farming and agro-pastoral training at Vivo Farm, the center's sister program. At the Tech Center, women learn basic computer literacy, helping to better prepare them for the current global workplace. City of Joy is modeling a new kind of center that moves from social service to social justice. It is a place that is literally turning pain to power. Our experience is unique because women never had such an intensive 6-month program in one safe place to rebuild themselves in community and be led by principles. We are at the 16th session. At the end of this year, we will already have 1,383 graduated. We keep closely in touch with them, and the next step will be a meeting with all of them to talk change our country. City of Joy. Joy has really planted seeds of revolution. These seeds are now rapidly growing. Graduates at City of Joy are fierce, capable women committed to their communities and the future of Congo. Women are ready for revolution, and I hope you are all ready for revolution.
Christine Schuler-Describer. Let's hear it one more time. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for showing us the power that not only can change a country, but also that can change the world. Thank you once again to Christine. Ladies and gentlemen, next we'd like to show a clip of a documentary film to you from Taiwan called Turning 18. Two girls from the remote area of Hualien, Taiwan, 7 years of shooting and production. It is a film about the life experiences of two girls, school dropouts, sexual and gender violence, sheltering. Most importantly, it is about how these two girls could always find a way to stand strong and keep it together through difficulties and adversities. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Turning 18.
如果很简单的讲，为了让这个纪录片是两个少女的故事，关于青春的沧海桑田，没有人比他们懂得。大家好，我想要做佩子没有感觉，第一眼女孩你会发现她无论碰到任何困难，她很不退缩。
我要保护我家人，我家人是最爱的。
那另外一个孩子借由对爱的追寻，去填补心里的空洞，好像很多事情是让我无法自拔的，生命是一直往下面走。他就是走在了你多走一步就要掉下去的一个悬崖，可是他必须勇敢的往前走，而不掉下去。
我想要让这个家更好，让自己更好。就算要放弃我自己，我也不想放弃我自己，所以我想要靠自己。
关于生命的苦难和成长，是他教会我要怎么勇敢。
不要哭，你哭我会哭的。
我有点想用导演的时期去偷渡一个我非常的愿望，就是我希望你们来不了。
Turning 18. This one part two. We're very happy that the director of Turning 18, He Zhaoti, is with us this afternoon. Do you want to meet her? Yes, let's bring her out. Miss He Zhaoti, please come out to the stage. Yes. I have to say, oh, okay, you have the mic. You can have two mics at a time, if you want. I have to say that was a very honest and also, at the same time, very heart-wrenching film. So I kind of want to know what made you want to do a film like that, and it took you 7 years. It must mean a lot to you, right? Just give us a little bit more about Turning 18.
Okay, thank you very much. Hello everyone, good afternoon. I would like to thank to Chi Yui 乐意去的机会有she invited me to this very important conference. For this documentary, it is a story about two girls that refused to be traditional victim, but they wanted to stand up with their fate to be female warriors. So one of the girls, actually Chen, in the film, she was sexually assaulted by her father and the 3 uncles when she was a child. And when the crisis came again, she entered to the shelter. And that was when I started to film her. So at the time she was 17 years old, now she's already 23. Actually, we have a screening here in Kaohsiung, so you are really welcome to be there to watch the movie, Turning 18. It's like 15 minutes by taxi. I know some of you will be there, so welcome very much.
Yes, thank you very much. And you mentioned that one of the girls was sheltered before, and also I know some of you are going to visit the shelters in southern Taiwan these few days. So would you please share with us what is it that you have seen? What did you see from the girls, and especially the girl who was sheltered before?
Actually, I already seen one of the girls. She was my main character in the documentary. She always told me very often that I was not. She said I was not the one who made mistake, but why I was the one to put in shelters, like put for her it was like put in the chair. But for me, because I'm not a social worker, I'm not the counselor, I'm a filmmaker. So for me, I kept on accompanying her like an auntie. For now, it's over. It's like 8.5 years. So for me, I felt very heartbroken during the documentary production because I've seen how vulnerable she was, and actually she is, and also she has her very huge, like a warrior, standing in front of me. So for me, the most important thing is, in the shelter, what is the best choice for young ladies? I don't know, but my duty is to raise the question in the documentary. So I'm really happy to be here and share the question with all of you.
Yeah, thank you so much for raising this very important question. And back to the film again. Turning 18 was out last year, right? And it was taking awards. Not only in Taiwan, but also in the Netherlands and also in Hong Kong. But it was very highly regarded by the movie critics, the professionals. But I'm wondering, what is the feedback from the public, from the audiences who are in the theaters?
Actually, we have the theatrical release this year. So we had a very, very successful fundraising to prepare for the theatrical release this year in July. The people who donate us donate a lot of tickets. So we collect the tickets to share to social workers and counselors and the psychiatrists and the women activists. We invited them to go to the theater to watch Turning 18. And also ordinary people and audiences as well. Most of them, I think more than 90% of the people, they really love the film. But few of them are social workers. They are kind of upset because they thought I was not doing my good job to protect the girl because I showed her face. She wanted to speak out loud about her story, about the Me Too issue. And I just let her to speak her story, but few people are upset and kind of like angry about the thing that I didn't do the protection to her. I think for me, well, even the girl, she wanted to speak out her story. So for me, I think the most important issue for me is when do you think the child, the young ladies could have their own strength to empower themselves? For me, it's really important. And when shall we believe that the girls will have their own strength and the courage to face through their own life? And of course, we need to protect our children. But is it possible that too much protection in the shelter, it will, the possibilities of the strength and courage will not grow? So let's say there are very big questions for me. So I had a lot of discussion with those social workers and psychiatrists during these months. And I remember one night after the screening, there was a girl, she came up to me and she waited until all the audience left, and she told me that, you know what, I had exactly the same experience like the girl. My father raped me when I was a child, and I thank you very much for your film because I feel accompanied. I was stunned and I was shocked. I never thought of that there was a real person. She would come up to me and talk about her story, just like the main character. So after she talked about her stories, and I said, could I give you a hug? She said, of course. Then I held her tight, and she cried hard in my arms. You know, it's a Me Too issue. There are a lot of Me Too issues in the shelters. And I think all of you, all of us, there are a lot of change in the world. She's not the only one. And all of you are the most important supporters in the world and the only support for our child in the shelter. So thank you so much for your support.
Thank you to your host, yeah. Just one last one, not on the question list. Where can we see the film? And especially for our international friends, can we purchase the film from Amazon or anywhere?
Not yet, because we just finished the theatrical release, but I will maybe let you know. Through Zoe, through the Garden of Hope Foundation.
Yes.
Because we are very close friends with Garden of Hope Foundation.
We promise we'll let you know. Turning 18, Director He Xiaomi, thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, both of you. Thank you so very much. So moving on swiftly, provision of crisis shelters to survivors of domestic violence is not without controversy. I'm sure all of you know, you're in the field of work. There are those within the movement who say that it is cruel to take the victim out of her own home, move her to someplace safe, and in fact isolate her from family, friends, and community. That is why there are mechanisms to remove the perpetrator from the home, as happens in Europe's Istanbul Convention, or services to provide open but secure shelters, as happens in the case of the Oranje House in the Netherlands. And both of these are becoming more common. But maybe I should be a little bit more specific about that because they are more common in the developed world or in big cities where there is actually money to pay for these services and the necessary support systems that goes with them. But in developing countries and rural areas where women are still fighting for really basic protection, let alone safe shelters, moving to a shelter 2.0 really is not a realistic option. So these are important issues to discuss, and I'm happy to introduce to you a panel with whom I will do so. First of all, the chairperson of WestNet, the Women's Services Network. She also heads the Annie North Incorporated, a women's refuge and domestic violence response service in Australia, in Victoria, so to speak. Here is Julie O'Brien. Welcome, Julie. The board member and co-founder of Tartu, the first domestic violence shelter in the Baltics. Here is Pila Tsokmagan. Pila. Director of the Garden of Hope Shelter for Migrant Workers in New Taipei City. Here is Kylie Lee. Welcome, Kylie. So let me start with a question for all of you. While I rearrange my chair so I can see you a little bit better. Can we somehow, instead of meeting every 4 years with the, let's be honest, a carbon footprint, could we somehow work toward a situation where we are not even talking about shelters anymore? Kylie.
Yes, we hope so, right? All of us hope so. If the world is free of poverty, violence, oppression, or war. But the reality is no. So we need a shelter to rest, restore, to rebuild trust and regain hope.
The answer is no, we cannot.
Yes, we're social creatures. It might seem like it's normal, but it's not normal to be violent. We can change, I believe in change, otherwise I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. But we need everybody behind us, and it's going backwards in many places and not going forward in many places. I think what we're seeing is as there's more promoting the issue around domestic violence and gender-based violence, there's a lot more focus on prevention and awareness raising, but that's actually increasing women's self-help. So that more and more women and girls are seeking help because of the awareness. So until we change the system and the structures which support the behaviours, we actually have to invest in increased shelters and increased services for victim survivors. Otherwise, we're letting them down and it's more dangerous for them, and they're already dying every day.
Lila, I'm sure you would agree, but I'd like to hear it from you, please. Can we have Lila's microphone on? Thank you. Not yet. It's coming soon. Maybe hand her the hand mic if you can, Julie. Share the microphone. Thank you.
Yes, I agree with Katya and Julie. It ends, I guess, eventually when patriarchy ends. So,
sorry, I'm not quite hearing. Can you repeat? No, it's because of the acoustics here. Thank you.
It ends when patriarchy ends. That's a real thing, because I'm really sorry, but patriarchy hurts both men and women. And it makes to feel this need to oppress, need to push people down. So as long as it lasts, we need, as Julie said, more shelters.
Yes. But who's taking, because to be very fair with you, this is what I heard 4 years ago. We were talking about patriarchy then. And are we moving, I just want to know if you're moving forward. It doesn't have to be solved in one day, well, we would like it to be. But do you think we are moving forward in the right direction?
We we obviously saw it in several countries, like moving forward, and we, as we are very close to Northern European countries, it is better visible than somewhere else, but then there were some bad shifts going on, and when leaders of the world, countries are changing rapidly towards backwards, then all progress you have made actually starts backing. So for us it is, for Europe it's been always, we see the progress of like everything is getting better, governments get engaged, and now when this thing happens, like it did, end of 2016, it was the beginning, then you see that backlash or walking back is so much faster than getting forward.
One step forward, two step backwards, is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that as long as elite politicians are bullies,
yes,
as long as the shelter movement has to stay.
It has to stay. Okay, gotcha. So, you were telling us this morning in your session about the strong women's movement in Australia, yet funding has gone down. So, what does that tell us?
Oh, there's strong women's movements all over the world. In Australia, we've had a relatively strong welfare state, but it's been rolling backwards for a very long time. Our government's becoming more conservative. They're withdrawing funding and support from the grassroots services on the ground, which is not just women's shelters, but community legal services, women's health services, and so forth. Some of the states in our country have increased some funding towards shelters and other domestic violence services, but it's still not sufficient. And we've been so under-resourced for so very long that it's just starting to make a little bit of ground. I just wanted to make a comment on the other issue. I think we're at a very dangerous turning point. There's a lot of backlash, there's a lot of change, there's a lot of progression around fighting against patriarchy and other oppressions at the moment. But you can see the backlash happening to feminism, to women's services, to us on social media, and the violence is increasing. And we can see policies being taken away. You can almost see the handmaiden's tale starting to happen with some of the policies that are changing at the moment. But I still think we've got to hope and we've got to fight, because if we don't, the other side wins and everybody loses. But don't remember the climate change issue as well. That's going to affect all of us, particularly women and children.
How so, by the way? How so? Why particularly women and children?
Well, we're already adversely affected by everything. The resources are dominated and controlled by primarily men and male dominance, and we're across the globe secondary and othered, and we're just more impacted by everything.
Yes, Pila, thank you. Pila, you on the other hand, you're from Estonia, as I was saying earlier, where the government is quite generous, in fact, in funding. In Europe, can you see a trend moving away from shelters, or just not yet, like you were just saying? What is the trend in Europe, according to you?
We are not moving away, and yes, Estonia has the highest ever in Estonia's history funding from government. But what we see is we are getting additional services. So as at the very beginning of shelters movement, there was like, okay, let's take women out from their environment, which is violent, let's give them home. Then we figured out that, okay, let's get them some training or counseling or therapies and whatever assistance they need. Then let's look at children, let's help with children, let's help children generally, because at first children weren't helped. Mm-hmm. And yes, now we know in Europe there is progress that it's perpetrator is getting moved from the apartment or house when perpetrator is abusing, and it is good practice. One new thing in our toolkit, I would say, because there are always women who absolutely do not want to stay in their home, but there are also women who want to stay for a few days to pack their things together, so they don't have to frantically run during the winter night, only having like nightgown on and no ID, no nothing. So they have time to collect their stuff, baby stuff, and then leave. Or they can decide that I want to stay in the apartment. But always there has to be option to be in safe environment, to be in this positive, like our shelter in Tartu. We have quite small town and not too big shelter, but and quite poor. But what women say is that this is the feeling there is so safe and so welcoming. So that is something what they really need. So yes and no. There are just more things, but as we know, as I know in Latvia, the removing abuser is the only option because they don't have women's shelters. So each and every country has their own different way of working, and NGOs see the most what is the best for their country. But we cannot go that, okay, let's now, everybody, let's move the perpetrators and that's it, no.
Yes, once again, I was commenting on that earlier. The difficult part of the work that you do is that there are so many people and so many different situations that you actually have to cater for.
Everything is tailored.
There's no generic survivor of domestic violence.
Yes. No check, like, okay, checklist, this is done. No, it's tailored thing.
Yes, I hear what you're saying. Kylie, you're the manager of a shelter of migrant women. Shelters, of course, as we are saying, are very important. What other services do you need to stop women from returning to a shelter once they have been abused again?
In my shelter, we are working with the migrant workers, not the migrant spouse. So the best practice is to help them to find another job, to replace them to a stable and secure environment, employment. So that's the main thing we can do. But we also found that some of migrant women, they were abused from the very young age. In their home country. So it's very difficult. So the best intervention program we use is to work with different professions like counselor, clinical psychologist, doctor, and sometimes with some very severe case. So we work with the law enforcement and lawyers as well. And also we found that because the women are migrants, they find they themselves are marginal. But we want to tell them that you are not marginalized. You have to be proud of yourself culturally or in different ways. So yes, in our shelter we celebrate every event in their country. So that's the Indonesian New Year we celebrate with them. And then also,
I think you should press yes, there you go.
Yes, yes. Also, we bring all our victims into the public event. This is the event hosted by Bernhold for Me Too campaign. And we encourage them to wear their fall costumes and to show themselves. Be proud of yourself in the public event. And it's a good thing to let them to speak up themselves and not ashamed of their race, nationality, or their sex, even their case.
Yes.
Yes.
And are you at the same time helping them integrate into this society? That's a question, actually, yes.
Yes, that's one thing. And I'm sorry.
That's just you.
Yes, we want the things. And so we also hold some cultural events. And we cooperate the reporters and some organizations. We host the festival, Southeast Festival, and to do a competition for our migrants. For all migrants, not only victims.
Right.
It's not a cultural event, it's the event we want to keep keep relationship with our friend outside the shelter. We hope they can come back and talk with us and share their ideas.
Because what I hear you say is that if you give them the opportunity to stability, a new job, a new environment, that would be their new life. They would not need to go back to where the situation was bad. Is that what you're saying?
It's one of the things, but for some, there's some history inside. It's not easy for them to live. If they didn't get some proper treatment or intervention, they are easily to get in that kind of power and control relationship. So what we do is to provide effective care and support. I think that's very important.
To all of you, I would like the question that I touched on in the introduction, the North-South divide, because according to some people in countries that are less privileged than the ones that we come from, even thinking of a proper shelter is like a privilege they could not even imagine. So this solidarity that we are talking about these days, the impact of the solidarity, how can we apply that to making shelters and safety for women more diverse, north-south-wise, money-wise, no money-wise? Who'll start? Where can we even start? That's the question.
I'm not sure. Like, we're in the south, but we're privileged, and
yes, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I do.
Yes.
I do, and I do think we can work with our own governments, because our Australian government doesn't invest enough into preventing domestic violence or supporting victim survivors. It doesn't invest enough in services to be able to create a coordinated community response, which is what's needed, so women, children and perpetrators don't fall through the gaps. You know, that women need to be validated, they need to be supported, believed and affirmed by specialist women's services who understand what they've been through, who come from a trauma-informed perspective, who understand that the trauma has, the reaction they're having is an absolutely normal reaction to trauma. The governments need to invest into that rather than all of these other things that they're spending a lot of wasteful money on. They've got money, our government's got money, it's just putting it in the wrong places. We're putting a lot of money into overseas aid, and so we should, and there's people complaining about that, but compared to other countries, Australia's putting very little in. You know, we should be investing in our small Pacific Island nation states and supporting them to get a much better response in our own local regional community.
Ila, what's your take on the matter?
Yes, where do we start? Europe is extremely privileged because we don't fear for our life doing what we do, working in a women's shelter. Also, I know that many countries in this room also, they actually are not fighting for their lives, but putting their lives in danger to help other people, other women. So what I would say is, I would start just with schools first. If there is any way of teaching school kids in all areas to be non-violent, because homes are giving because homes are giving us different, like, old norms, old ways of working. They don't even necessarily teach child, but they are just giving what they have taught, or giving the pattern what they have had in their lives. So when children are learning not to be violent, or not to be pushed around, just to respect each other, that is one thing. How to help women who are already in need, or families who are already in need of help. I would find local government friendly body and start discussing from perspective what they might understand. So soft values as everybody has to live violence-free doesn't work. You can't say always that, hey, Mr. Mayor, you know, it costs money. that these women are suffering, that these children are suffering? Do you want to get more money later when these children are earning money instead of using social benefits?
That's always a big argument, yes.
That is one what I would, and I'm using it in our government also. Like each pound I know in UK, each pound you put into shelter earns back or saves at least £8 of government money. Plus, we are not thinking about like how it is carrying up to the future. We are now only looking at our today's level. But the children who might be disabled mentally or keep going perpetrating or being victims, this is next level of where actually government and state is losing.
I know that in Scandinavia there are gender-neutral schools, and there have been tests in the United Kingdom with gender-neutral schools, and the results are actually quite astonishing when you talk about raising less violent generations. That might even be a solution. I see you nodding, Kylie. Have you heard of it? And what is your take on that?
Yes, I see from North and South divide is also rich and poor divide.
Yes.
Yes, money is the real thing, real issue for running a shelter. And it's our idea that even in the same country, you can see the divide between poor and rich. And what we see that because of lower budget, so the staff training and all the facilities are not enough, particularly for a shelter running person. So what we did this moment, we have other, when we deal some cases online, and we have the migrant in the rural area and bring this case to the central and do advocacy. And we say that what the problem in this case, staff training, referral, services, and the shelter, not enough knowledge about the victims. So we ask the central government, you need to put more money and training to the local. That's the things we do. Also, we found that it's very useful to empower and invite more community leaders engaged in your services. I think that will be a benefit for our service and to make this divide, not disappear, but decrease.
Yeah. I'm afraid, as I hear myself say a couple of times each day, that's all we have time for. So, to come back to my first question, no, we cannot stop thinking about the work that has to be done where shelters are concerned. But my personal conclusion would be, based on what I hear you say, that what we need to work towards is a paradigm shift. It's raising different generations with a different knowledge and a different understanding of what the world is and what causes violence in the first place. So let's work on that and see where we are the next time we speak. Thank you so very much, Kylie and Julie and Peter. Thank you very much for being with us. Thanks. Thank you again. Well, we need a little, Sally, we really need a step change for the next part. But let me first talk to you why we need this step change. We need some space here on stage. That is basically it. The intro to that is the following. This conference is not only about policy and not only about the work done by excellent people like yourselves. It's also about the women and the girls who themselves have been brutalized, taken advantage of, have been raped, have been etc., all the stories that we hear. We also know from stories that we've been hearing the last couple of days that these stories are not always told, first of all, because sometimes the women are not believed when they are said, when they tell us that they have been victim of violence against women, or the outcome could be, as we saw in the She play, that the powers that be lay the burden of proof on the woman in countless belittling ways. So I guess another way to make a testimony, to testify what has happened to you, would be to put it into a rap video. And that is exactly what Inge de Boer did. Inge, come out please. Where is Inge? Come here, Inge. Inge de Boer, ladies and gentlemen. Inge, you made a video. Tell us about the video and why did you make it?
Well, we made this video actually on behalf of ourselves because we were all survivors of domestic violence and sexual abuse.
And you are a survivor, right?
Yes, I'm a survivor. One of the survivors. Actually, all the ladies in the video were all survivors, and we want to deliver a very important message to the policymakers, researchers, scientists, politicians, and everybody in this world. So pay attention to the lyrics.
So why did you choose this form?
Because it's hip hop. It's nice. It's very comforting.
Really?
Yeah.
Some would say it's I don't know, not brutal, but I don't
exaggerating
or
no.
Just asking. It's not everybody's cup of tea. I guess that's what I'm saying. I'm just saying. I'm not saying it's not my cup of tea.
You know what makes it so fun, because it's already the end of the day, and I think we all need a bit of exercise and movement and fitness.
Okay, so you're gonna get that opportunity. But first of all, I'm gonna end up with what I have to say. So you go psych yourself up right there in that little corner while I finish off for the day, and then I'm gonna let you loose. Okay? Hold on tight. So. Yes, we're going to get some exercise here. Inge has been threatening us with that. So, first, before we do that, I need to remind you of the GNWS world map. I wonder if you can put it up. I want to see what the situation is at this moment. The GNWS world map. Can we get that one? Where is it? Where is it? The map, people. There is the map. So, we're making some progress there. It's not quite as much as we would want, so I would like to urge everybody, even if there is no facility in your country, please make that known as well. We just need all the information we can get as to what the situation is in your part of the world with the National Helpline. So, and there's also another thing I'd like to mention. GNWS is looking for a good and catchy website name that is easily pronounceable anywhere in the world. They first came up with the idea to make it, they wanted to be a woman's name. So they came up with the idea Viola, but that in Latin languages means rape, so that is out of the question. So come up with a good name, preferably a woman's name, short, easy, that anybody in the world can pronounce and remember. And submit that idea to the GNWS desk. I will tell you now that the winner will receive a little prize. So it's well worth your while to go to the desk and come up with a really great name for the website. So that's it for the GNWS world map. I would like to remind you that tomorrow is another early day. Yeah? No partying tonight? So tomorrow morning at 8:15 we will start again, and tomorrow will be all about policy and legislation, so you can get psyched up for that. So Inge, it's time now for your thingy.
Yes.
What are we going to do about this?
Well, I have a message here, so let me just read it. I'm also very tired, probably I will forget some words. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Inge de Boer from the Netherlands, a Dutch citizen with Taiwanese roots. I'm here not representing any organization or political body. I'm here on behalf of countless victims and survivors of domestic violence and sexual abuse worldwide. Together with my fellow survivors of domestic violence, we have created this music video. The lyrics are inspired by quotes from women over the world who battle domestic violence and sexual abuse. It's about getting help, processing, healing, recovering, and empowerment. We are no longer living in the shadow of pain. We have turned water into rain. All positivity gets widespread. No victim blaming, no victim shaming. Let's reach out and speak out. As a symbol, I herewith pass the talking stick to each of you, inspire the indigenous people. Please keep the good job and keep your spirit high. Also check it out on YouTube by searching Listen up. Women's survival rap great group, probably because of the viola thing. I'm thinking about drinking wine. I could use some of wine tonight. Make sure the message gets widespread. Thank you all and peace to the world, and that's rock and roll.
So how do we rock and roll? That's the question.
Let's play the video.
Roll the video, people.
Move your hands, move your
And we want
feet.
you to get up and participate. It's time to get up and move that booty, people. Show the video. Here it goes. Okay, so we're gonna pass it to you.
I'll be honest with you, so listen to me. We women, we need more solidarity. I remember my mom, I was just a little girl. Dad used to beat her up and yell at her. I managed to hide, she believed I didn't hear. I never talked about it, but my heart was full of fear. He used to say she's stupid, he used to call me dumb. I swore that I would never ever be like my mom. Me too, you too. We had a man like that. He was my sweetie, but a human too. Me too, you too. We had a man like that. He was my sweetie, but a human too. Yes, me too. I had a man like that. From the moment I got married, I belonged to him instead. He thought it on my body, he thought it on my soul. He wanted to show that he was in control. My freedom had gone, I kept asking why. My self-respect faded, my soul started to die. Whenever I went wrong, I was lazy, crazy, ugly, and I felt so ashamed. Ain't nothing alright. No victim blaming. No victim shaming. Are you listening? Defend our rights. No victim blaming. No victim shaming. Are you listening?
Don't ask me why I stay with him. Listen to my suggestion. Ask him why he abuses me. That would be a better question. Why my in-laws temper him. Why society protects him. Why he raised me when he's drunk and I have to satisfy him.
Deliver the message. I want to share my story. I want to share my pain. I want to hear your story too. I'm sure we felt the same. I'm sure we felt the same. I'm sure we felt the same. Defend the right. No victim blaming. No victim shaming. Are you listening? Defend our rights. No victim blaming. No victim shaming. Are you listening? Proud to be me again, strong again and free again. No more feeling of my feelings. Proud to be me again, strong again and free again. We decided to speak out, to speak out, to speak out.